let me go back to where I started off, the difference between Namirembe and All Saints. Now, the wife of, did you get the names of the Baganda wives? There were 3 wives of Baganda. Solomon, there were three names of Baganda. You can look it up. The third wife, the preeminent one, was always called Kaddu Lubale. Now, when even the Kabaka's wives, he used to have very many wives, but the principal one was called what?
Kaddu Lubale.
Kaddu Lubale. What does Kaddu Lubale mean? Kaddu Lubale means, Kaddu means a servant or slave. Lubale, the spirits.
Yes.
So in that particular home, the woman, the spirits would speak through the what? The woman. The wife number 1. So when Kabaka Chwa was getting married to a Christian woman who had gone to Gayaza, and she opposed being called Kaddu Lubale and taking up the title of Kaddu Lubale. So they came up with a new title. Ask me.
Which one?
What is the new title?
What was the new title?
Nabagereka.
Oh. So that is like something to suit into a woman that does not want a traditional name that is attached to the Buganda culture.
That is it. The title is, she's no longer okugerekera Obuganda. So they switched the name from Kaddu Lubale. And those of you who are quarreling and asking, you see, cultural transformation is not for the purposes of regression and going backwards. It's for improvement. Because you see, we are coming from a pagan background, my brother. And Mutesa, when he was inviting the missionaries, he told them, he says, mujje utuletera abasomesa batusomese tuli mu kizikiza. Now, some people don't fully understand what it is, the religion we were part of is all about. You talk about it without knowing it fully well. Okay? Kali kyatuddeyo ku bajjajja Lubale Kibuuka, Lubale Mukasa, Lubale Namalere, Lubale Nakirwadde, Lubale Mujobe, Kagole, Nabagesera, Muwanga, Lufuwa, Kisigula. Now, by the way, these Balubale are very, very key. And they still make demands on us today. The difference between the Christians in All Saints and the Christians in Namirembe. Now, I may be wrong, but this is what, in my interrogation, I have come to learn. The Christians in All Saints were willing to discard and transform their original names, which had to do with the gods, and they embraced Christianity as seen clearly within the Banyankole and the impact of the East African revival. So you find names of people that have to do with a Christian name and a name that has to do Magara. For example, my doctor is James Magara. You know what Magara means?
Magara, blessing.
What does life? Oh. Okay, life. You can see.
There's Rukundo.
Rukundo, love. There is
Ayebare.
Yeah?
Ayebare.
Let him be praised. Now, the Baganda, for whatever reason, I think because there was resistance to transformation, they resisted that change. And they felt like that giving up their original names is giving up their culture. But for me, I'm of the view that there is no need we just needed to get new names, more names, just like the Banyankole did, and still subject them to the clan's leadership. For example, instead of being called Mukasa, instead of being called Ndaula, these are names of gods. We could come up with new Chitibwa.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
Kusanyuka.
Chirabo. Mulangira. Okay? So, there is need. For me, I've actually sat down with some of my pastor friends and I said, guys, we have not yet done for the next generation the work we need to do, because we need of names that can be shared both with the Buganda kingdom and assign them to the clans, so that when someone says, no, I don't want my child to be called Ndaula, but I want my child to be called Chitiwa, then they said, what is the clan? Now that name can be assigned to the clan and is recognized as part of the clan. It is part of that clan, because you see, the clan system is so important, especially in the genetic protection of our people. Baganda have about 51, 52 clans, and they make rules that you can't marry within your clan, and they also sort of disdain marrying in your mother's clan. It is accepted, but it is not encouraged. Why? Because you see, the genes that I carry are from my mother and my father. So if I marry a woman who is from the near genes, then we will be doing what is called genetical inbreeding. Genetical inbreeding is the reason why people have diseases, because in the mutation of our genes and the reproduction, when you marry near cousins, which is why there's always these jokes. Yeah, those people marry cousins. See, they are not very sharp. Yeah. So they had.
Please don't feel bad if you are there. Now people are going to feel bad. They say, Pastor, let me tell you, it is not even God in. By the way, that shared. Even in this Bible, God discourages us from marrying near cousins according to the law of God. Don't marry near relatives. Why? That is genetical inbreeding. And by the way, I talked to a friend of mine recently. He's a nuclear geneticist. And he has just finished his PhD. He's from Saudi Arabia, one of my supporters and friends. He told me, Pastor, you people in Africa have the most diverse genetics in the whole world. And it's because of that you don't get diseases.
Oh, so thanks to not inbreeding.
We don't inbreed. We have the most diverse genes. But for example, the Dutch or the Swedish, the British, they marry cousins, and many of them have a lot of diseases. A lot of diseases. They are, especially those who are even racists. By the way, the more people are racists and tribalists, they discourage marrying someone either of a different race or a different tribe.
Yeah.
And you will find this in people who just marry my tribe.
It's common, rich people.
Now that is the problem, by the way. This is why, by the way, me when I was in Namirembe, the children of the rich were not very sharp.
Pastor.
No, I'm telling you. Namirembe, to get, look, these top schools, to get in, you had three kinds of students. You have students who are extremely bright. You have students of rich parents. You have students of politicians. Okay? Then you have almost very sharp students, of which I was. I wasn't the genius. Now, the geniuses and those who are almost, then the children of rich and politicians. Now, sometimes your politicians, they were okay.
Small.
But the ones of the rich, Life, Masape,
not the sharpest knives in the as my father-in-law calls them. They are not the sharpest knives in the kitchen. No, they are not. But because their parents have a lot of what?
Money.
Have a lot of money. And I'm not saying that all the, by the way, some people who are rich are very disciplined.
Yeah, actually, to a larger extent, they
Very
are.
disciplined. Number two, I mean, the guy of Windows, the rich man, Bill Gates.
About Bill Gates, yes.
Bill Gates. And who is this one of, I think it's either him or the one who made the tab, who made the
You're talking about Steve Jobs.
I'm told that those guys who are in technology, they didn't give tabs to their children when they are young.
Yeah, they discourage that a lot.
Now for us, the moment a child is bamwadesim. Now a child, giving a child a phone when they are young, they are going to be affected by the blue light.
The eyes right away.
So I want to come back to this beautiful thing. Whether you like it or not, the matrix of Buganda's spiritual DNA is very alive and well. For me as a pastor, I can tell you this. There are people, and it was so helpful for me. I told you that from that radio show on Metro, people would call in and would say, my name is so-and-so, I'm Kato, I'm Waswa, and what? And the man would ask like just 4 or 5 questions of diagnosis.
And he already knows.
And he knows. Now, because there are ceremonies that go with each name, for example, Kato and Waswa, these are names given to children who are born as what?
As twins.
They are dedicated even from birth. There are ceremonies of initiation.
Yes.
And those initiations into the spirits, the spiritual world. Kato is a name of a god. Waswa is a name of a god. Now, in the matrix of Buganda, there are also rivers that have to do with these gods.
Oh, there is Mukasa. Is it River Mukasa?
There's River Mayanja.
Mayanja, yes.
Now, Mayanja has an altar here at Seguku. By the way, here's the other thing. People don't understand that even these villages have names. At the time I was doing this research, I was staying in Lubowa. Okay? Now, Lubowa is a name of the god of, it's a military god. Lubowa
God of war.
is from Abambowa. Their security, they are warlike.
And then people named Lubowa.
Lubowa. That place is not easy. By the way, we stayed in this house, which was a house where Misambwas used to stay. In fact, when I stayed there, the person who had been in that house told the landlord and said, there is no way living people can stay in that house. But you know, I had to pray every day for about 2 hours. Now, some of you need to know this. Let me tell this to you guys. Some of you are living in a place where if you don't pray a minimum of a certain amount of time, you will be disrupted.
The spirits are too strong.
My daughter had a dream. My daughter Abigail, when we were staying in that house, she had a dream in which a man wearing back clothes and kanzu came and put a blanket on her, got a jerrycan of paraffin and poured it on her, and then lit it and burned her. And she was screaming in fire. And she's like, but why? But why? And then they told her, you tell your father he's disturbing us. What is your name? My name is Mukasa.
Oh.
So, man, when I heard that Mukasa is in a fight with who?
Your daughter.
With me. No, with me.
Yeah, that's, of course, attacking your daughter.
That is when I began my research. That is 9 years ago.
Wow.
The journey that I've gone through to become an expert on the etymology behind names, on learning about the Buganda history. I've spent time. I've spent a lot of time, but it's now become a place of interest for me. Most people, you know, they look away. They don't want to spend time. I've spent time reading. I gather the books. I read them.
It's quite a
yes. I have a
knowledge,
collection.
Yeah?
Over here I have, what is this? This is the anthropology of names and naming. This one is
Traditional history.
the traditional history of Buganda Kingdom, MS Chiwanuka. So I've become very fascinated both with Buganda. And by the way, the place that I stay in Jungo, Namirembe, is a place of great history. It's part B of Namugongo. Namugongo, the Christians were killed, and then they scattered across the country.
Okay.
And then after about Mwanga, when the Muslims threw out Mwanga, like I told, Mwanga suffered. Mwanga actually stayed in Chagwe Island. There was an Arab who was hosting him there, and took all his money. When the money was run out, he chucked it. Then Mwanga was, behind Speak Resort.
Yes.
That it was Bulungugwe Island, and then there's that one behind Speak Resort. He was in there.
Wow.
Near Sudil's place. That's a very historical island.
Definitely.
Now, Mwanga saw that he couldn't go back because Buganda was going to become essentially a Muslim country. And Rashid had made covenant with the Sultan of Zanzibar. And he says, these are all kafirs. Send me guns and soldiers.
And we take them out.
Yeah, we declare Buganda an Islamic state.
Yes.
Now, it was at that point that the guns were also brought in. And the Mwanga saw that he had no future. Some of the Baganda had become exiles in Bunyoro. Some had gone exiles in Ankole.
Some even in Acholi.
And then the islands. The missions were on the islands. It is very key for many Baganda who are right now there is a very anti-Banyankole sentiment.
Yes.
But it's because they do not know the history. When the Baganda scattered, the Mukama of Ankole, Francis, this is extremely important. They went to Ankole. Then Mwanga, when he was still on, ordered the Mukama of Ankole, that's the Kabaka of Ankole, to give them up so that he will kill them. The Mukama of Ankole said, no, I cannot. It became a state-to-state conflict.
Yes.
He says, we are going to have a fight. Then and these are Christians, by the way. The Mukama of Ankole said, no, we will not give these people up. In fact, he ended up giving them a district called Kabula. Now, the reason why there's many Banyankole in Baganda in Ankole, some don't know. One of the major waves, especially the Kabula, is because the Mukama gave refugee to the Baganda
at the time.
The first bridge built in Ankole was built by the Baganda because they had learned the technology from the missionary.
Oh, yes.
They also had become raiders. They were good at gun. They even raided together jointly, and they raided Rwanda for cows. Baganda and Banyankole. Can you imagine that?
Interesting history, you know?
Yeah.
Wow.
Fascination. So, but when Mwanga saw that he was being defeated, he called all those people. He said, guys, I was a bad man in the past. I've decided to embrace Christianity. They gave me a new name, Daniel. He became Daniel. He embraced Christianity. And then he says, but if you fight and you overcome, I will declare Buganda a Christian nation. And you can preach. The final battle was fought here at Bulwanyi, next to my home in Jungo. That's where the final battle.
Oh, that's where the part 2 is.
Yeah, part 2 is.
Okay.
And then they made the covenant at Jungo Namirembe. And what's the date today, by the way?
Today is 5th.
It was today. How interesting.
Oh.
It was today, October the 5th, that victory was gotten. And in fact, every year on October 5th, they used to have a march around Jungo. They would come from Namirembe, from Kampala. They would have a parade from Nakawuka, Jungo, Bachi Jurwa to Kasanje, around Bulwanyi. It was a victory march. It was every year in October the 5th. It was the day of peace and independence. Now, the settlement that came out of that, it was stopped in 1960 something because the Muslims complained. They said, every time you march, you remind us that you beat us. Can you please stop it?
Stop. So they stopped.
So in the spirit of religious sensitivity, it was stopped. But it was always there. This is history. It's extremely important.
Yes.
You people need to know this history. There's part B. Many of people go to June the 3rd, Namigongo,
And
where
they
Christians
forget.
were killed. They don't hear that the Christians pray to God. They made a covenant. They said, God, if you give us the victory and we win, we will be able to, we dedicate. And it was in Jungo that the Baganda leaders dedicated, that the new line, because Kalema had killed most of the children of Mwanga. There were very few
left.
It was the Christians, and many of you, I want to, please make sure you show me in the camera. Many Baganda do not understand that the current dynasty of Mutesa, the one who is on, Mutebi, the son of Mutesa, from Chwa, was actively fought for by the Christians. It was Catholics and Anglicans. 3 times they fought these battles. Many people don't understand this. And the covenant was made dedicating Buganda to the Lord at Jungo. Now, Gabunga of the Mamba clan, you may, by the way, Gayaza Jr. has just been given land to build a Gayaza Jr. I had wanted to lease that land because the Church of Uganda has very big land next to me, about 350 acres. So I wanted to lease that land to put up a farm when I first went there, but they didn't like it because I was born again. Even those Anglicans, man, they said, you are born again. I had paid all the lease fees. But then I got to know the root of the Gabunga. When they won that battle, by the way, that battle is very, very important. Many people don't know. You know, these Stokes. Stokes, have you heard of Stokes?
Yeah.
Stokes, and then the bricks. You know, you hear the bricks. But the Stokes, there's a family in Bunga originally. The Stokes, he was a missionary who came along with Mackay, and he ended up falling in love with a Ugandan woman. And when he fell in love with a Ugandan, they told him, no, white man cannot fall in what?
In love with a black
But
woman.
the man had fallen in love, and he produced children. So they threw him out. So to survive, he became a trader. He traded in ivory and guns, as he was also preaching. But he was sort of an outcast. That man, Stokes, is the one they outcast. By then, some of those missionaries, they were pacifists because they came from Scotland, like Mackay. They were non-fighters. The fighters were the French. The Catholics were fighters. They did not hesitate putting out what?
Guns.
No, they didn't hesitate.
After the Bible, there's a gun.
They did not hesitate. But this the Scottish. Some of them were they didn't like to get involved in the what?
The fight.
So they didn't look well to Stokes. Now Stokes, they called him Bwana Stokes, is the one who arrived with the guns and gave them to the Christians here at Entebbe, Busi. The Arabs had brought it 2 whole boatloads full of cannons and guns. And Stokes came with the refugees who are coming. Some are coming from Ankole, some are coming from the islands, some are coming from Bunyoro, and that is how the Christians won. Then they made a covenant at Jungo Mirembe, dedicating Buganda to Christ.
So Stokes had a significant
Very. Unfortunately, he
role.
was killed in Congo under very unclear circumstances by the Belgians. But his family, he had been given a percentage of the land in the Buganda agreement, and he was so loved. The Baganda loved Stokes. They called him Bwana Stokes, or they called him Stokesi. You know, like the Stokes, Bwana Stokesi. He had an adopted son, Stokes. It helps you to understand some of our current history. So when today someone says, I'm a Christian, I am Martin Semper, that means Martin. I even did homework, by the way, on Martin. Because Martin is also a name of a a Roman god of war. It is from Mars. So I was so disappointed with that. My mother named me after Martin de Porres because he was a younger Christian who was born without his father. He was an orphan. And he's Martin de Porres. Many people know him. He's from the Catholic tradition. So, because my father was Indian, my mother was a Muganda, my mother and my Indian father's side had decided to tell my mother to abort, and my mother refused. So she said, no, I will raise my father. Then she gave me the name Martin from the Catholic priest and Sempa from her father. So I took the name of my maternal grandfather, Sempa. And it has also been interesting for me to do research on my names going backwards. Sempa is a son of Bisaka. Now, Bisaka was by the Banyankole. He was also a famous trader like Stokes.
Okay.
Amongst the Banyankole, he was called Bishaka. But in the Baganda, he was called what? Bisaka. Very, very famous. He had 70 wives. Every chief he did business with gave him a daughter. But he also had an appetite. When the sister to the daughter would come to visit, he would also acquire the sister. My great-grandmother, Vendeka Munako Atambuza Mwoyo, and the Kulabako, they were sisters from Karagwe.
Okay.
So it has also been interesting for me to do my homework and discover that my genes, my ancestry of genes, the same person who is Bisaka, I've known him as Bisaka, was also Bishaka.
In the West.
In the West. Duo.
Interesting.
Duo. So now today, you may say, I don't want this idea of being called Mukasa, but you are solidly a servant of Mukasa. And if you want to be a true Christian, the journey has not yet been completed.
So how has your journey been like, Pastor?
I made a decision that I would change my name from Martin Sempa
to
Gabriel Baba Gwanga Mujeri Yesu.
All the documentation has changed?
I have not, because it is a long journey, changing it formally. Because you see, I have dual citizenship, Ugandan and American. Beginning that journey is a bit hard. But I decided that I will publicize it so that people get to know. I mean, everybody knows Chagulanyi is who? Bobby Wine. So now I began to say, so every time I'm on Kasuku knows me as Gwanga Muje. People knows me as Gabriel Baba. Why Gabriel Baba? Gabriel is the angel that stands in the presence of God. Baba is a father. It is a historical name of a father from West Africa to South Africa. Gwanga Muje means it is the drum we draw when something important is happening.
Call to action.
Call to action. Call to action, Gwanga Mujeri Yesu. So when I saw Pastor of Fanero talking about this, you see, he's talking the right thing. But he needs an expert on the subject. Now, people are entirely free to keep their names, but they are not free to refuse the information.
Oh, interesting.
It is up to you to decide. There was a girl from West Nile that I was preaching to in Makerere. Her name meant death. You know, we name names after
people
and spirits. Her name meant death. And every time I would preach in the church, I would say, God is going to bless you. She would always stand up and say, you are going to get married. No. You are going to have many children. No.
So she had a lot of objections.
It was always a fight. And eventually, as we battled and prayed, she got the conviction that I needed to change my name. She changed her name to another West Nile word meaning life. She's married now with children. Of course, at the beginning, the family members were so annoyed. How can you change the name? That name was the name of your such and such. What people feel very betrayed. But you see, beloved, if someone has your system administration passwords, okay? system administrator. I remember for me, I used to pray when I was fully confirmed in my clan of Sempa, my clan name. I would dream dreams of running, being chased, but I'm running inside the fence. And then I would say, but how can I give Sempa? Sempa is my grandfather's name. It's so important to me, my grandfather. But you see, Sempa has the name originally has to do with the covenant of the healing where Bulemezi. Some of you don't know that this is so vital. Sempa is next to the hill called Waluse. Now you may not know. Waluse is the hill where the Kabaka of Buganda goes to get powers on the passage of becoming a king. There's a whole circuit. There's a whole circuit, by the way. I when you bring me next time, I want to talk to you what is going to be very relevant. The dual process of how, when the Kabaka dies, how the process of his burial, and when the boy who has been chosen to be the king, how he becomes a king.
A king.
This happened simultaneously. You remember recently when the Queen of England died?
Yes.
You remember? There was this whole very elaborate course.
Yes.
While the casket of the Queen is being taken through different Oxford, Cambridge, what. Then the boy was being taken to Scotland. He's taken to Ireland. They also have a rite of passage
into kingdomship.
How a boy becomes a king.
Yes.
And how a dead queen, a dead king is buried. Now, in the Buganda matrix, it was very interesting how many of the current names that you hear, you don't know. Gayaza is the place where the dead king is squeezed with back cloth in the process of not cremation but preservation.
Oh,
yes. So Kabaka no mubirigwe. That's where it's a whole process
of trying to
and by that I'm just speaking and jumping. Cheba and Doha is part of it, and then there is Namirembe, where I went to school. Namirembe has to do with the shrine of many doors, which has a tremendous service that when a boy who has become a king, in Buganda teaching, when the boy becomes king, his mother also becomes a queen or a king.
Okay.
I would just use the word Kabaka. She's also a Kabaka. And then the Baganda teach that a Kabaka cannot look a Kabaka in the eye.
Oh, that's why it's often.
You don't look. The Kabaka does not look like a Kabaka in the what? So, when the boy becomes a king, the last day that he sees his mother and bids her goodbye is in Namirembe. Because the mother enters in through one door, the clan leader through the second door, and then the boy who has become the king through the third door. Then the chief of the clan says, your son has become king. And you have also become a Kabaka. This is the last time you are going to say goodbye to each other. That's why they hugged. And it's a very deeply moving place. That's why it's called Namirembe. Seguku, this is the place where the altar of Mayanja is. It was a huge altar of sacrifice where people were killed on behalf of the Kabaka to offer sacrifice to the god Mukasa.
Oh, wow.
Okay? So, that's where the beginning of the river Mayanja. By the way, some of you don't understand why the river Mayanja is so important. Or even the twins. The twins are so important in the Buganda matrix.